Oh, never mind. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to hold it.
Among many of the theoretical changes that come with a family split, the move came along with. And as someone who is a suburb girl at heart, it was a very hard change to move to the city. But I was pretty ecstatic to think of the thought of making real Chicagoan friends. I recall vividly the feeling of anxiety and excitement I had moving to such a populated area where I'd be able to see more diversity. But getting to my first period class and seeing that half the class was empty, even though we had such space, was very confusing to me. After my first week, I decided to move back to the suburbs, mostly because my family and I felt that I had more educational and social opportunities back in the suburbs. Although I only attended 4 days at a Chicago public school, the confusion of how empty that school was lasted much longer for me. Each year, there are many Chicagoans that make the same choice for their families. As prices go up in Chicago and less changes are made to the curriculum, it leaves families having to decide what is best for their children. Empty space is what leads to bored students craving more stimulation and more academic and social opportunities. The decline in CPS enrollment only leads to more changes that aren't as favorable, such as budget cuts, which is quite odd coming from the third largest district in the nation. The district is state funded, so it does help some of that setbacks when it comes to our opportunities and budget cuts there. But as more time goes on and more money is spent, money runs out, and it leaves schools with the issue of what to do with that missing budget. The issue is being created, but it's also causing those same issues that created, leaving this district in a cycle. Thinking of where you are today in your journey, how did your schooling experiences prior to college shape who you are today? I'm sure we can all think of many examples. Living in Chicago, we likely know a child or have our own children going through this district. After conducting my own research and checking out all the awards, businesses, and specialties of Chicago, and having our own experiences with Chicago, we can all see that our job as adults is to continue to advocate for growth with these specialties and growth for opportunities for the youth that are entering these professions. Today, I will be informing you on the Chicago public school enrollment crisis and what this means for locals, staff, and students pertaining to their budget, academic advancements, and lack of students within the Chicago area. I will be also including parts from my interview with a CPS alumni and now state's attorney, Sonia Hernandez. As cost of maintaining schools rises and budgets get tighter, there are less students to divide the cost by. What does this mean? This means that there are so many staff members for such little students, leaving there to be empty spaces where it isn't required. This also means that there are many resources that we have at each school and too little kids using those resources. Because of that, that leads schools to make decisions of what should be cut because there are so few students to participate in many school activities. If you wonder about the cost comparison of a under-enrolled school compared to one that is averagely enrolled, according to the Civic Federation, nearly $36,000 annually is spent at each under-enrolled school, meaning there is $12,330 more spent than on average efficient schools. Less funding means less educational opportunities and less room for curriculum improvement. This brings me to my second point of lacking of academic advancements. And if we look at here, this juniors in the CPS enrollment system, and we see that from 2019 all the way to 2024, we see that both scores of English and math have declined. And in other curriculums where there isn't a decline, there is a plateau. The plateaus here lead us to focus more on those core classes than extracurriculums that could allow kids to see what truly interests them and allow them to have more advanced opportunities for growth. This brings me to my third point, which is a little shocking because we think of Chicago as such a populated area. I know I did. So thinking of the lack of students or student-aged children in Chicago is kind of shocking. There are less school-aged kids in Chicago because of the slower birth rate, meaning less kids per family, and just overall, families waiting longer to have children. There is also the issue of CPS students that are currently enrolled moving out of the district, just like I did. Although lower birth rate is appearing through the whole country, lower birth rate and the move out of the Chicago district comes with people trying to fix their issues of unemployment, food deserts, and overall increasing prices. With these issues at an all-time high in America, we see that increase very much more in very populated cities, and that is another reason why less kids in minority families are having kids. And considering the fact that our CPS schools hold much more enrollment to minorities, this is what's creating a huge gap when it comes to our enrollment. After my conversation with Sonia Hernandez, I realized that this was very much not an issue during her time as a graduate of 2015. She stated to me, moving back to Chicago after college and ready to start my family in Chicago saddens me to see my friends move out of Chicago for the same reason. And although this confused me at first, talking to her, I got to realize that this was not the case. When it came to CPS schools in the past, there were many instances where they were overfilled that led more schools to open, and that over-influx of kids to move over to whatever school was left that often received the same funding as the other school, leading to less educational advancement there, but for a whole different reason. If we see here, around her graduation time, there was a much higher population. Up until 2023, we see that there has been a significant drop, and there hasn't been an increase in our population since 2014. Because of these reasons, because of the over-influx of kids during her time, she completely understands why there wasn't the best education during her time. But it was very much a shock for her to see that there are less of enrollments in buildings, considering how things were during her time. I didn't fit in well when it came into school. I never really did, but I can sure say that my experiences, and for Sonia as well, who didn't have the best time during school socially, those opportunities that we were given allowed us to go farther than we ever thought we could and prepare us even more than we thought we would be for situations outside post-grad. Every child deserves the benefit of a well-rounded curriculum and opportunities to prepare for post-high school life, no matter where you are or who you are. Thank you.
A second.